Hello and welcome, Exiles, to look at the Void Shockwave Slayer on a much lower cost, about 95% less, still providing the same Herald of Ice satisfaction. Boom, 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 the screen goes goodbye. Now, the thing about this character is, even though I say 95% less, that sounds like a lot, the original character was 4 mirrors. So, to be frank, 95% less than 4 mirrors, still 170 div. It's still going to cost you a decent amount. This is not a dirt cheap league start type of character, but it is a hell of a lot more attainable than 4 mirrors. And if you want those screen wide Void Shockwave pops, this could get you started on that path. And hopefully a lot of people that wanted to try out a flavor of this character can get started with this sort of skeleton to work with. Now, looking at our budget in game yesterday on stream, I set this all up. I was really tired. It was the end of the day, so I probably messed up some math here. I probably made some poor decisions, but this should give you a rough idea of how much it's going to cost you, or a way to set up the character on a much lower cost. Some key notes I want to make here is, obviously, if I do this on stream and there's a bunch of people watching and there's obviously, flippers that are going to say, okay, I'm going to price fix this item. That sort of stuff happens. You have to kind of work around it. For example, goal max power charge at the time when I bought it was 25D, but then I did that on stream and I said, hey, I think this is a valuable purchase at 25D. I think it's worth it. And then a bunch of people were like, okay, I want that for my build too. They bought it. Obviously, the demand is going to go up a little bit and the price went up. This went to 35D. You get the idea. Certain items like that are lower supply will definitely see some price increase. Keep in mind, it can only increase so much because the price of a base goal is like 100C. So you could just literally, like, 25D of cost is like, I don't know, you could buy literally 80 goals or something with that and corrupt them yourself type of thing. So keep in mind, there is a ceiling to some of these items, but that's something you have to work around. So I try to do my best to keep track of these items. Obviously, the market fluctuates, but that's kind of what's going on here. A few of the keynotes of things I splurged on because I thought they were worth it is I splurged on the goal. I thought it was worth the +1 power charge. I splurged on making elusive plus the elevated onslaught boots because I think it's important to make your character kind of feel good, have that extra speed. We have so much elusive effect on our amulet. It feels wrong not to take advantage of elusive on crit, especially with the new tattoo that gives elusive goes up for 2 seconds. It makes it feel way better. And I just think it's a must in the big character, so I did splurge on that. I also splurged a little bit on a +1 socketed blunderbore. The reason I did this was because it pushes Eclipse and Enhance to a breakpoint to get the Herald of Ice up to a +0.7 meter radius, even if you're buying the bricked versions of Eclipse, like a level 3 and a level 4 Enhance, which are way cheaper than the level 4 Eclipse and the level 5 Enhance, but it still gets you just 0.1 meter less than the Giga version where it's level 4 and level 5. That's why I did that. I chose to splurge on some of these items, and that's my reasoning behind it. Things I didn't splurge on, for example, are the rings. Rings are cold damage per frenzy, and I used like a couple of horrors on each of these, just looking for 2 okay mods. Like this one hit life, and I just bench crafted accuracy. This one hit double res, and I just bench crafted life. This one hit a res plus accuracy, and I bench crafted life. I did not try very hard on these rings. Could you spend more essences and make these better? Sure. I was just trying to get a functional character up and running, so I only did a few essences of horrors, and I said, you know what, 2 okay stats, let's send it. These are honestly pretty garbage tier in terms of what mods are on these items. I would definitely recommend investing a bit more if you have the budget to do so, but I was just trying to keep the budget as low as I could. 170 div still is a decent amount of currency, but there are certain places where it's just, I did not try at all in terms of investment, just to try to keep the cost, on the lower end. Once you start trying to make things nice or do a nice craft on something, you can really get carried away on cost, and it doesn't necessarily make the character or break the character. So I just wanted to show like the minimum viable, if that makes sense. Next up for the gloves, I did basically buying some non-ideal bases with some lower rolls on cold damage. I chose to fracture this. Fracture orbs are honestly really cheap right now. They're like 0.7 div or something, 180 chaos, and div's like 170 chaos or something like that. And I chose to manually fracture this and do Zeal Essence, looking for either a really good suffix, and then I was going to try to do life afterwards, or hit good life and then open up a suffix and benchcraft something. So that's what that is. Obviously, I would definitely recommend doing the accuracy per frenzy. It's a large amount of our accuracy on this build. We don't have a lot of sources of accuracy. I have a few bench crafts on rings and that mod, and then I think I have oh, I have one split personality that's giving a little bit of accuracy here. So it's part of just like accuracy is a bit hard to get on your character unless you craft really good rings. So that's a part of getting the accuracy. Anywho, that covers a lot of the items here. The last and one of the more important items is the Eventuality Rod. I have a little bit of regrets on this because the difference between a you somewhat tried version of this weapon and the GG version and what I have here is like the cost between the mid version and this version is not that different versus the cost in the GG version and the mid version is a ton because you have to recom a 5 mod like perfect item and that's just a super big pain versus the mid-tier option is you recom a 3 mod item and then you multi-mod either +2 supports and hits can't be evaded or like attack speed and +2 supports depending on which combination of 3 mods you have. The mandatory stats on this staff are power charge maximum, endurance charge on stun, or power charge on crit. It can be either or, it does not matter. And then the third stat could either be an attack speed stat or it can be the 20% more attack damage stat. And then you mix and match with your multi-mod depending on what you want to go. If you have hits can't be evaded, that frees up needing accuracy other places. If you don't have the hits can't be evaded, you get the 20% more attack damage and then you have to end up getting accuracy elsewhere. That's kind of the trade-off you're going for. So what I went for is I just did a couple Hinekora lock beast checks until I just got an okay outcome. I was looking for power charge plus max power charge, plus I was looking for like attack speed or crit chance, and then one open prefix, and I was going to craft +2 supports. This did not have an open affix when I looked at the Awaken Orb. It just had +1 socketed. +1 socketed is slightly worse than +2 supports, but I just said, yeah, it's close enough, and I just put it together. So this is the super subtle option where you're just checking a couple Hinekora Elite lock beast method versus what I'd recommend is go for a 3-stat recom. And the way you do that is you do a 2 prefix, 2 prefix, 2 suffix, 2 suffix type of thing, recom. And the way to do that is you Awaken Orb a prefix, prefix together with a beast, making sure there's an open prefix, open suffix. You can do prefix, can't change, scour. Then it's isolated. Those 2 mods are by themselves. Do the same thing with suffix, isolate the suffixes, and then slam those 2 together. That's kind of like the cleanest way to do it to make 3 stat bases. But yeah. Anyways, that's the idea. Now, when I said you can do endurance charge or power charge, either support works. One thing I want to reference here is the Cyclone gem. The imbue supports have different costs to them. So like when you go to trade and for example, you say imbue power charge on crit and you say Cyclone, you look for specifically this thing right here, 35 divines. That's a huge expense. The thing is for this build, endurance charge does the exact same thing. I bought this for 1 div on stream and people are now buying it for 6 div. Well, lo and behold, there is another option that will work pretty much just as well, which is Life Tap. You could look at something like Life Tap, 175 chaos, cheaper than a div. The idea here is you look at the supports that are on the build and you say, what can I interchange out from what's currently here? And that's an example of one you can do. So keep your mind open, look for alternative options. Don't just pay the premium 35 div for power charge. That's the most ideal one, but the thing is, the other ones work pretty similar in value as well, so just check your options. Please do not overspend for these. You can get similar power options without breaking the bank. All right, next up on the character, we are looking at what I choose to spend, where I chose to spend extra money on in terms of supports. Where I invested more on supports, for example, were Eclipse Gems, level 21 Ice Bites. Those were our big expense supports. The cheaper supports where I didn't want to spend extra on was like level 3 Enlighten versus level 4. Level 3 Enlighten was like 35 chaos. Level 4 Enlighten, I think, is like 20 div or something. So try to cut costs where you can, where the reservation fits. And that's what I did. I didn't do any like level 4 greater supports. I did level 3 Shockwave. I did level 3 Invert the Rules. Trying to cut most of the costs while getting still a large amount of the power was the idea. As for the tree, this is where we cut a lot more budget again. Where do I start? So number one, for the Foulborn Jewels, on the expensive version, we're doing Foulborn Red Nightmare and Foulborn Red Dream with like double stats. The double stat's way expensive. The single stat is just like 15 divines, and you can buy the ones with the wrong version of this, and you can swap them around with Flesh of Zesht. So that's what I did. And then we ended up letting go of the Red Nightmare because we don't have Lucky Block anymore. We can't afford to put block on every node on our tree because we need the res. And so obviously this jewel socket became open, and we used that to fix another problem, which is chaos res. Our build got over 120 Chaos Res from the Red Nightmare and the double stat Foulborn Dream. Those are really expensive jewels, so cutting those out, we needed the Chaos Res somewhere else. Somebody in chat suggested using Light of Meaning, and we have a great spot for it right here. This Light of Meaning alone is giving us like 60-something Chaos Res. Yeah, it's 60. It's literally 60 Chaos Res. Very efficient Chaos Res. Nice for the budget. Works fantastic. Another way we cut costs are the cluster jewels. You may notice these are not like double block jewels. We're going for cheaper combinations of notables here. We just have an Overlord on the travel passive. One thing to note when you're looking at cluster jewels on trade, I just want to tell this because people didn't know about it when I was doing it on stream, but I'm going to showcase it here real quick for people, is you can tell where the notable is going to be based on where it appears on the trade site. So when I pull up this and I say I want a 2 notable jewel, if it is the first node on the trade site, that is going to be the one that's in the back. So what you would need to do if you want to find an Overlord on the travel passive is you would search for Overlord, a jewel where it appears on the second one. So obviously Heavy Hitter and Drive Destruction, they don't appear where we want Overlord to be. So you could say not Drive the Destruction. You could say not Heavy Hitter. Not Smite the Weak. This is how I like to go through it if you're like just wanting to find it more quickly. Not Calamitous. All of those have Overlord being the first one there. Not Aggressive Defense. And this kind of just gets a lot of those extras out of the way until you can find one that actually works. Weight Advantage, no to you. Expansive Might, Martial Prowess. So it looks like probably a lot of the jewels that have the 2-set notable maybe got bought out. No, here's an example. 1D Vicious Skewering. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. If the notable is right here, then it appears on the travel node on a 2 notable. If you're looking at a 3 notable, for example, the node in the back or in the middle is the one that appears in the back. So you could buy that Vicious Skewering run for 1D, or you could buy this one that's 111C and it still has Overlord where you want it. So that's the idea. We're just looking for a cluster with Overlord on the travel. It gives us Fortify, very efficient node. That's what's going on there. Another thing you may notice is we no longer have the Impossible Escape plus the Elegant Hubris here. We have actually a massive thread combined with thread Elegant Hubris here. So for this specific situation, normally you can get up to 4 good notables. The 4 good notable one, there's only like one that's 4 good notables here, is obviously very expensive because that's the one I have set up on the Giga character and people have bought that one out. However, there are a lot of combinations that can give you the 3 notable outcome on this specific location here. And the way you can do that is either use the POB tool or you can use the Timeless Jewel Calculator, which is the one I always like to do. And this one I'm going to showcase real quick because it's a weird example that we figured out last night. And it's going to feel a bit weird, but work with me here for a second. I'm going to try to showcase this. This is one of those features that is not implemented. Okay, I'll put it this way. I don't like the current implementation of the POB tool. I think it's kind of hard to work with and / unintuitive. And so I like this tool a lot better. The problem with this tool is if I say, hey, I want a minimum of 3, there's 24 combinations that have this. When I go to click trade, the problem with this tool is even though I told it I want Caspero, it searches a bunch of the other ones. And the way it works is if it has Kadira as the first on its list, it'll go through all the curated Kadira listings, then to Victario, and maybe after the Victario, there's the Caspero listings or whatever. And it doesn't know how to correctly say, oh, this guy asked for Caspero, I should only search the Caspero listings. The way you can get around this, and this is going to sound really stupid, but this actually works. And watch and observe. You can click the trade, and if you real quick, you can copy the link. So if I go here, I control C before it did this thing, and it gave me the error code. And I go to my notepad, and I paste. There's this huge long string of text here. What I'm going to then do is I'm going to do a Control H. I'm going to replace Kadiro, which is the thing that's putting Kadiro as the first listing, and I'm going to replace all those with Caspero. So I go through, I click Replace All. It should replace all of the versions of Kadiro on that, and that's the trade link that punches in and then pulls up the trade search here. Punch that in, And then when I should go through this, I should be able to see Caspro listings instead of the Kadir listings I don't want. So I'm going to go through now, close out all of these. You can also just use the POB tool if you don't like this cooked as hell method, but this does work. And searching here gives a bunch of listings that are, well, I guess people in chat figured out this and now they've listed these a bit higher, but I bought one of these for 2D yesterday. But this gives you a much cheaper jewel rather than trying to go for the specific 4-stat notable, which is the one I'm using in my character, which no doubt is going to be much more expensive, / it doesn't exist on trade because people have probably bought it off the market entirely, and that's that. So anyways, that gives you the way of how you could find a 3-stat. Keep in mind, I just showcased doing here with a massive. The Impossible Escape setup works here too. There's a lot of 3-stats here. There's also an Impossible Escape here. There's a lot of 3-stats here. So look around for your options. You don't necessarily have to do the most expensive option, if that makes sense. There are cheaper options, like, for example, this one right here. This Impossible Escape covers multiple notables. If Unwavering Stance is a cheaper Impossible Escape, this jewel probably has a lot of cheaper combinations. Just keep in mind, there's always an alternative. So this is giving us not 4 notables, but 3 notables for percent damage. Obviously, that loses us some of our single target, but it still works pretty efficiently to have, 360% damage from those 3 notables. It's still quite worth it. Okay. So I think that covers most of the budget stuff we did. Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. Hopefully, this is helpful for people that wanted to play the character. They had a little bit of currency to their name, but nowhere near enough to do the multi-mirror setup, and it gives you an idea of what this build would look like if you're trying to do it on a much stricter budget. Still very fun. Still gives you those screen-wide pops of the Herald of Ice. You're a lot less tanky. You still have some okay tank with 12 endurance charges and Fortify, but still a lot less tanky than the other version, but it works. And yeah. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoy this. Took me a bit of time last night to set it up, and I will link the description to the VOD below if you want to see me do specific crafts or stuff one by one. I showcased it all on stream yesterday. Anyways, take care, Exiles, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.